Everybody, Mega Ruler 31 back here for FSI DFS. Monster slate again today for a Tuesday. All 15 teams are playing. Cleveland, Minnesota actually have a doubleheader going, so 14 game slate on FanDuel because they usually don't have the second half of a doubleheader. Lots to talk about today. Yesterday was kind of a weird day where probably the chalkiest pitcher, Kirby, that all of us thought would be great cover guy, got destroyed by Baltimore. Baltimore's actually been pretty hot recently. The last 14 days, they've won, I think, 10 out of they're like 10-4, and they're putting up like decent amount of runs, and it's been home way. It's been kind of under the radar there, so we'll talk about that coming up. And then the Dodgers didn't got shut out at Coors, which was unbelievable too. So Cruz hit his first home run for Pittsburgh. So we're on to today, and let's get right into it. So first game up, we have Oakland and the Yankees. Wind blowing out a little bit, 5 miles per hour. You have Montas and Sears. Montas, I think, is kind of a risky play here. The Yankees have been solid. They've just been finding ways to win. So not interested in him on a huge slate like this. And JP Sears, I think, is okay for if you're looking for a cheaper pitcher. You're probably gonna get like 5 innings, maybe like 5 Ks here. He's got a good matchup against Oakland, but not going to really put up a ton of points. But I think it's he's pretty safe here. Oakland, bat wise, I think, makes it a decent cheap stack. They have been putting up some runs here and there with some of the newer guys they've inserted into the lineup. And the Yankees, I think, definitely is a top GPP stack today. There's some other ones I like in cash a little bit better, but you always have to consider playing them. Pittsburgh and the Nationals, it's another case of you have decent ballpark for hitting. The pitchers like Quintana, not interested in there. Corbin at 5.3. I know he's been horrible, but this matchup against Pittsburgh, if you're looking for a little bit of value here, I think there's some other guys, but I wouldn't completely write him off. I think he can do enough to make value here. Pittsburgh does have some strikeouts in this lineup, especially if like Chavis is back in there. They were in a good matchup last night and didn't put up a ton of runs besides Cruz's home run there. So I think that it's definitely a doable matchup there for Corbin. Bat wise, again, Pittsburgh makes a decent cheap stack, and Washington, I think, is like 150 max, just because how Pittsburgh has potentially been putting it together recently. And if Corbin reverts to his bad form, but I think he does enough to get by. Atlanta and Philly got a great pitching matchup here. Charlie Morton and Zach Wheeler. Wheeler faced Atlanta about a month ago. He had 10 Ks versus them. Morton, he had a bad May. He's been okay recently. He's just not screen's not refreshing, so look at the notes here. Yeah, last game was good. Like, he's getting Ks, but he's also giving up earned runs also. So it's just I think he's playable up in the upper range, but I think there's other guys I prefer there. Bat wise, I think if you want to play these guys as leverage stacks, I mean, each one is kind of a little bit watered down here. Obviously, Albies is out of the Braves lineup, and Acuna fouled the ball off his foot and can't even put any weight on it, so he'll probably be out of the lineup. So there's a big back on for them. On the other side, Harper is dealing with a thumb injury, so he's out. So I think that helps the pitchers a little bit. Weather-wise, wind blowing in a little bit, 77 degrees. Philly's a decent ballpark for hitting, so I just I like the pitchers in this game. If you want to play them bat wise, I think you have much better options. But if you're playing large field tournaments and want to like leverage against one of these pitchers, if you think either one's going to pick up a bunch of ownership, I'm okay with that. Boston Red Sox and Toronto Blue Jays. Nice total here at 9.5. Michael Walker and Ross Stripling. Walker, I really have no interest in. Stripling, I think, could be a decent pitcher for a cheap if you're looking for somebody there. Probably not going to go super deep, probably get a couple of Ks for you, but he's actually a low K pitcher. But at 5.1 against Boston, who has been much better since they were like earlier in the season. But in tournaments at 5.1, if you're looking for a cheap guy, I think you can mix him in as an SP2 on DK. I wouldn't play him as SP1 on FanDuel, would not do that. Bat wise, I think both these teams make good GPP stacks today with the decent totals and how well they've been hitting as of late. Milwaukee Brewers and Tampa Bay Rays, you have Brandon Woodruff and Shane Baez. Woodruff probably going to go 5 to 6 innings here. He had 74 pitches in 5 innings at a rehab start. He had a hand injury, so it's not like it's an arm or leg thing or like shoulder. So he should be okay. Tampa Bay, they got Franco back in their lineup, so that helps them, but he was like 1 for 5 yesterday, so it might take him a while to work things back in. So I think Woodruff can be okay. Like I said, just I have the PC there just as a question mark, but I do think he goes long enough to get the win and the quality start on FanDuel. You just don't expect him to go like probably 7 or 8 innings in his first game back here. Baz, on the other hand, he's been okay as it's coming up as a starting pitcher, and Milwaukee's been like a boomer bust team. They're either going to hit you or they're not. They're much better against left or right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching, it seems. But I think this young guy is probably one of the at 7.6. He's like halfway between like cheap and mid-range, but there's so many like expensive guys that the mid-range pricing is so high up there that I think he's a cheaper guy, but he's kind of priced in no man's land. So if you land on him, I think he's a decent option because all the other cheaper guys are like in the 6K range or below. I think you can play him against Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a 3.42 total, and Tampa Bay is a great hitting or pitching park. So I think that bodes well for Baez also. Minnesota Twins, Cleveland Guardians, second half of a doubleheader. No idea what the lineups are going to be. So looks like it's Josh Winder and Plinkleton for pitching. Not interested in either one of them, just because like it might change. So it's hard to nail down pitchers in the second half of the doubleheader because you don't know what happened in the first game, how much the bullpen was used, and things like that. So on a 15-game slate, just going to completely avoid it like FanDuel does. Minnesota, I think, always makes a decent stack. So I like them against the lefty Plinkleton or Pilkington or however you say his name. Sorry. But Minnesota I'd take as a GPP. Cleveland, not super interested in here. So next up, you have another decent pitching matchup. You have Framil Valdez, there's Carlos Carrasco, Houston, and Mets. But the problem is you've got two of the teams that are the most patient, have the most plate discipline, and really don't strike out a lot or walk a lot. So Valdez, I think, obviously has the one to look at here, especially in FanDuel. He's had 11 straight quality starts in a row. You're going to give out 7K, 6 innings, and he's going to give about 2 runs. So that's definitely decent and doable. On DK, I think he falls in the mid-range as a solid floor guy here. Like I said, I don't love the matchup against the Mets, but it could definitely work. Carrasco got absolutely annihilated last time out. It was his last game against Houston, but he's been solid for the season. So I think, again, in the medium range, I definitely prefer Valdez. Bat-wise, like I said, if you think Houston's going to take advantage of Carrasco again here, but here in the Mets park, it's a better pitching park than hitting park. So I'll definitely take that into consideration. So, 150 max, I think, for both these teams. Again, I'd favor Houston over the Mets. but there's a lot better situations on the slate. Marlins and St. Louis, another kind of blah game. You have Braxton Garrett and Dakota Hudson. Not super interested in either pitcher. I'd fade both of them. Miami, I'm not super interested in on a 15-game slate. I think maybe they'd be, maybe you could play them in the 150 max. I'm not saying that they're a complete fade here, but they just don't really pique my interest. And St. Louis, I think against Garrett, they've been hitting well here. 83 degrees out there, so it's not like 90, but should be decent hitting weather. They've been putting together pretty good recently. Probably score 4 or 5 runs here, so I think that would be my fourth favorite stack in cash here. Cincinnati Reds and Chicago Cubs. You have a lot of wind here. It's on 80 degrees. The wind's going to be blowing out 11 to 15 miles per hour. So definitely down on pitching here and up on hitting. So I think Thompson and Castillo are both decent pitchers, but I think, Thompson had a couple rough starts, but he's been decent for the last 6 games. Actually, I think the last 3 games. So he's looking like he's going like 6 innings. He gives up about a half a run, and he's had averaging 8 Ks. So the Ks are there. Cincinnati can strike out. So I think he's in the risky category. Same thing with Castillo. I think normally if the wind isn't blowing, both these pitchers would be decent against each other in the matchup here, but the wind I think makes it risky, so definitely bump up the bats. I think Chicago is my favorite cheap stack here. There's only one guy in Contreras that's over 4K. The rest of them are so cheap and easy to stack or mix in with whoever you want to play. If you want to play them with like LA, the Dodgers and Coors, or Colorado or the Yankees, it fits in really, really well. Cincinnati is the same thing. I'd bump them down a little bit. I like Pittsburgh and Baltimore a little bit better than them, but I think they're definitely in play. And again, they're just like a hard team to stack because the upper echelon of them are all like 5K guys, and you have Indy at 4-1. So there's a lot of salary there to like call them a cheap stack, but they do have some cheaper pieces if you want to stack them lower in the order. Texas and the Royals you have here, John Gray and Hensley. Not interested in Hensley as a pitcher, but Gray I really, really like. Think he might be my SP2 on DK here. I'll have to see. It's between him and Manaea, I believe, unless I'm paying down for somebody cheap like Baz or Sears or Kremer. But he's been solid this season, and the Kansas City has really not been. So Kansas City is kind of a no interest for me for bat wise. In Texas, they had a high total yesterday and didn't quite deliver. They put up some runs, but not as much as I thought they would. So I think they're another top stack in cash today, again, against him, with wind blowing out at like 6 miles per hour. So that helps hitting a little bit, 84 degrees. So it's going to be rather warm in Kansas City. So it's good hitting weather here. So the weather edge portion of it could help the ball fly farther. But the problem is like I said yesterday, it's so hard to stack Texas. Like I kind of like them better against a righty here than a lefty, because Simeon can hit either, but like Josh Smith, if he's leading off, is super cheap. At lefty has split advantage. Seager here, Calhoun, Lowe. I think Brad Miller might wake his way back into the lineups. Heim, the catcher, is a switch hitter. So I think like stacking wise, it's a lot easier than it was yesterday for Texas with the splits here. So I think, I've definitely have some interest there. Okay, back to Coors Field. Hopefully it's a better result today. You have Clayton Kershaw and Kyle Freeland. Kershaw, I think, is interesting. He's a good pitcher. He really struggled when he came back from his injury in May. But this will be his 4th start back, and he's been really starting to turn it up again. He actually had a really good game in the Great American Small Park. I know it's not Coors, but still that's a park that really can generate some runs from the offense. And he shut Cincinnati down there. So I think, again, the Rockies are better against left-handed pitching, but I'm not saying Kershaw is the elite pitcher he was a couple of years ago, or even like, a top ace, but I do think that he's interesting in a GPP but at 10K, like that's, you're really kind of playing with fire there. I'm paying that much if the Rockies do get to him hit. I do think, again, that, having Mookie Betts out of this lineup, I think hurts the Dodgers, but it does make them a little bit more affordable. Trey Thompson is still in. Trace Thompson is still potentially in the lineup at 2K, an outfielder in Coors against a lefty. So definitely think the Dodgers, people might be a little bit jaded after last night and not consider them as top stack, but I think I'm still going to go back to the well with them there in Colorado. I think it's my second favorite GPP against Kershaw. Okay, moving on. White Sox and Angels, Johnny Cueto and Chase Silleth. Sage Silleth is a bad pitcher, so not interested in him. Johnny Cueto on the other side, I think no interest there because the Angels definitely are starting to put it together a little bit under their new coach. So as for bat wise, I think the White Sox against this young pitcher are definitely my third favorite stack here. Could put up a lot of runs. Winds actually blown out at 10 miles per hour, 83 degrees in LA. So beautiful night for baseball there. And then the Angels on the other side, I think are the top one in 150 max, against Cueto. I don't think they're enough to like make them like a GPP, but they can always hit. So I think they have to be somebody that you can consider playing. Next up, we have the San Diego Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We have Sean Manaea and Zach Gallen. Manaea's been okay too, so I think he's somebody that you can consider. He just faced Arizona. He had went 6 innings, 6 Ks, 2 earned runs, so that's decent. But Zach Gallen, on the other hand, also just faced them, and he had 11 Ks, 1 earned run in 6 innings. So I think both these pitchers are in play here. Obviously, San Diego is a better park to pitch in, but if the roof is closed here in Arizona, it's probably not that bad. So I like both the guys here. I'd probably lean Manaea just looking at his overall season, but Gallen, like, they still are missing some guys in this lineup, like Tatis that is still out, Machado is out. So I think Gallen could have like low ownership and have a sneaky decent evening again. And maybe San Diego has been striking out. So maybe there's only a $300 difference here. So maybe Gallen might be a just as good a play as Manaea. So I'll let you decide on that one, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. For a pitcher tonight, could be your SP1, or if you're paying up for both and playing cheaper stacks, then SP2 works also. Detroit and San Francisco, Carlos Rendon's got to be the top pitcher on the slate against this Detroit team. Tarik Skubal, what happened to him? He was a very, very good young pitcher to start out the season, and he just kind of fell off a cliff. He's given up at least 5 earned runs in his last 3, and he's only getting like 4 or 5 strikeouts. So something's wrong. Either they've caught up with him, or they got the book on him, or I don't know what's going on there, but definitely not playing him. Love Rondon. Love San Francisco as my second favorite stack of the night. I think you're a nice pivot off the Dodgers, especially just load up on the righties against them here. Detroit would be a leverage stack if at only thing. Final game, we have Baltimore and we have Seattle, Robbie Ray and Kremer. Kremer's been decent this year. I know Seattle is okay. They've again, we always say they're like middle of the road. They don't like strike out, they don't walk, but they're decent offensively. So it's a neutral matchup pretty much for the pitchers. But Kremer at 6K, I think, can do enough. And between him and Sears, it definitely should be pretty safe mid-range to lower, like, cheap guys if you want to value SP2 there. Robbie Ray on the other side, he's just a GPP because, like I said, Baltimore has been hot and they destroyed Kirby last night. So I think I'm definitely going to at least have one Baltimore stack as a GPP, especially with all these right-handed bats here: Hayes, Mancini, Santander, Mountcastle, Rushman. I mean, there's their top 5. There's a decent stack also right there. Pretty affordable in the 4K range. Could probably pay up for a couple pitchers, mix in a couple one-off bats, and call it a decent GPP lineup. Seattle on the other side, I think, if you're playing 150 max against Kemmer, that's fine. He's a decent pitcher. That's where I'm going to go with there. So unfortunate news here. DraftKings is currently down, so I can't build any lineups on it because of maintenance, and I had, because of that too, I couldn't like look up any stats on DraftKings, so I had to go to like do all this like research on different sites and stuff, so it took me so much longer. So I'm sorry I didn't get time to put down a FanDuel lineup. So here's what I'll do: check back probably mid-afternoon today. I will throw out my the pitchers I'm pairing for my cash DraftKings and my GPP DraftKings, and the two stacks that I'll be playing pretty much for cash and GBP. Same thing for FanDuel. And then if there's any one-offs or any other notes, I'll throw those out too. So like I said, come back around, like say 4:30ish today, and we'll try to have up by then what's going on. So appreciate you watching this video. Again, sorry I don't have the builds for you, but if I can't get on the site, I mean, it would have been like impossible to try to, I couldn't even pull like the CSV to see what the pricing is on it. So appreciate you watching. Again, if you have any questions or comments, put them below. I'll get back to you on those. You can hit me up at Twitter at Megalor31. I had a couple people reach out to me and yesterday, which is cool. Meeting new people every single day. It's awesome. So thanks for watching the video. Please give us a like, subscribe to our channel so you know when our videos are coming out, share with your friends. And if you want more information on FSI DFS, where you can always go and get our course and everything for a very reasonable price for our Major League Baseball package, check it out. All the information is in the description of the video. So good luck tonight in this really big slate, and we'll see you next time.